the actual red flag, the friendly.
I think it's like
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. Thank you very much, Ian Wright. I can take it from here. People deluded, I'm back again. I hope everyone's doing well and safe as usual. Appreciative of all of you lot locked in and tuned into my content. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good night, wherever obviously it applies. Once again, thank you for all the support. If you haven't subscribed, you haven't turned on your notifications, make sure you're doing that in addition to hitting the like button and also commenting your thoughts during this video being premiered and also after. You know, everything that you lot do pushes the YouTube algorithm and the journey to 50+K. Well, we're there, but you get where I'm going. It keeps going, people, and appreciative of all your support, whether it's the the latest news videos, the World Cup watch-alongs, anything, people. I really appreciate it. Without wasting any more time, let's see what's going on in the current world of football relating to specifically Arsenal. Again, Arsenal are to host Juventus at the Emirates Stadium, people, in December the 17th. I think it's a 6 p.m. kickoff, and that will be on a Saturday. So yeah, it keeps us ticking over where our I keep saying preseason, but our sort of mini preseason, middle season sort of stoppage with the World Cup is. It's a good, neither team's going to play a full strength side. Neither team, there's going to, it's not going to be as serious, but it keeps both teams with the World Cup break ticking over. And who knows, Juventus versus Arsenal is something that could be a possibility, at some stage in the Europa League, people. But as it says here, Arsenal have announced the friendly, people, and it helps us tick over in relation to our Boxing Day game against West Ham in the Premier League. As you know, we'll be playing AC Milan, Lyon, and also Juventus. There are rumors we'll be playing Barcelona at some point as well. And you probably know, any chance we get, we end up always behind closed doors playing the Brentfords, the Watfords, people of that ilk as well, Ipswich on occasion. So there's plenty of games for Mykhaylo Arteta's boys to shake off any cobwebs. The gaffer, Mykhaylo Arteta, has said, we're looking forward to hosting Juventus at the Emirates. Our supporters have been magnificent this season. They've created such a strong connection with the team, and it'll be fantastic to rekindle that spirit before competitive action starts again. Lyon, AC Milan, and Juventus will provide strong opposition. It'll be a great test for us ahead of the restart. And also, we'll get to buck up with, I don't even know if Giroud will be about in that, because these two games will be in Dubai, to my knowledge. We'll get to play against Lacazette, so it'll be a good homecoming for him. So shout out, Mykhaylo Arteta and Arsenal for getting that done as well, people. Apparently, in fact, let's start here. 20 million South American star now one to watch, people. And also, let's go with one at a time, really. In fact, no, we're doing the wrong thing. We've also been linked with Douglas Luiz once again, but I don't know where the article is. But anyways, South American star one to watch at the Emirates, people. I mean, Arsenal's interest in Palmeiras midfielder is now one to watch over the coming months. You reckon? We tried to get him in the summer. It didn't happen. There was talk that with Palmeiras this season being done, that they'll let him go in January is, just over a month away. It's the 25th of November at this moment of making this vid. So it is what it is. We need midfielders. We need midfielders for the long term. When you look at for what I describe as our three main pivot men, it's Xhaka, Partey, and El Nene. Now, obviously, just because you're 29, 30 doesn't mean you haven't got skills to offer. These guys are players for the present. What we do with these guys in the present sets up the future. And Xhaka's doing very well, and has always done very well. Partey is staying fit. We hope these things continue. We need Partey. We don't have either of these players or both of them, we're in trouble. Anything happens to them, respectfully to El Nene, there's a significant drop-off. But if we're just chasing 3 points this season to keep this title push, if some of you believe that, or confirm top four, you can kind of bet on a certain level of consistency from El Nene game to game, every 5 to 10 games and such, where Lokonga doesn't afford that. Lokonga hasn't shown enough in the 8 role. Lokonga hasn't shown enough in the 6 role. El Nene is going to give you at minimum 5s and 6s out of 10. Respectfully to him, there's a massive drop-off with either, excluding Xhaka and Partey. If anything happens to all three of these players, we're in trouble. And then we need to explore, guys that can medium, short-term and long-term play there. Fabio Vieira, Smith Rowe, Zinchenko, Odegaard. I'm probably missing someone else out. I love the fact that Arteta is bringing the ballers back at Arsenal, playing them sort of roles there. We're probably very weak at a 6. Now, Danilo would probably need time to adapt and get to grips with things and, for a 21-year-old, but I do like him. He's got a good engine. He does mark relatively well, does switch off, and his positioning can improve. His consistency across 90 minutes can improve. But what do you expect from a 21-year-old? I'd hope he'd hit the ground running in January, but you'd have to give him time to adapt to living in a new country, what Mikel Arteta demands of him individually on a football pitch, then collectively, and also just get up to speed with the Premier League, really. But if you've done your due diligence and we can get this 21-year-old and we can see the fruits of the labour in the few years, and him and the Mudryks and the existing players that are at the club and guys we've been linked with, if they can grow and we can lay the plants down now and see our, see these crops grow in the future, why not? We need to start going for these guys. I do agree with some fans saying if we could get 1-2 ready-made talents, why not? But apparently the Gunners were in the midst of a midfield crisis at the time and were said to value the defensive-minded Brazilian at 80 million. As you know, he didn't sign for us in the summer. Hopefully he can in Jan. Jacobs apparently is said to give me sport. And then the other obvious name that people are talking about from Arsenal's perspective is Danilo as well, the Brazilian midfielder. And a bit like, I suppose, Telemans and Leicester over the summer, it's a case of trying to get the fee that Arsenal feel is of value and not make that mistake of paying more than they have to. And I think that Danilo is going to be a bit more of a kind of bargain free from Arsenal's perspective. If they do proceed, Palmeiras are probably looking for around 20 million, maybe even a touch less of that. I think that for a player of his potential and quality, that would be very worthwhile from an Arsenal point of view. And Arsenal have been there before with Danilo. They've offered, or they've certainly considered, around 20 million before for the player. And at that point, Palmeiras were not interested, but one window on, they might now be persuaded to sell. And the player is very interested by the Premier League as well. So that's one to watch. Make sure you're checking out my latest news playlist, people, because we did speak on Danilo offering his own thoughts on him being ready to make the move, people. 5'10" as well, adds a bit of height to Arsenal as well. So let's see what he could bring to the table, but that's one to watch. We were linked with Ibrahim Bamba before, people. He plays his football over there in Portugal. Edu handed Ibrahim Bamba pursuit, people, or boosting it. What has been said here? That's according to this Italian report, people, who claims that, the Italian defensive midfielder this window could be on a move. Apparently, his team are willing to part ways with him for a fee of 5.2 million, 6 million euros for the 20-year-old. Even if it doesn't work out, it could go, there's a lot of upside, really, because even if he doesn't work out, you could turn that into 20 million or so, sell him, keep it moving. Arteta isn't the only manager, and Arsenal aren't the only team allegedly interested. He's got interest from Atalanta, Villarreal, Salernitana in Italy, I can't pronounce that, and obviously Paris Saint-Germain, people. And his current club are not against selling him, people, at this moment in time. So we'll have to see. He's played 12 times at the time of reading this article, people. And apparently he scores quite high for defensive actions. He makes an average of 2.7 tackles. That's the joint 14th most in that league. 1.2 for interceptions, 4.3 for clearances, wins 4.8 of his duels, and has a success rate of 62%, people. And apparently at long passes, 2.9. He's, 1.5 for chip passes, and he's completed 29.8 total passes and has a success rate of 85% per game. That could be a lot better, but, that is quite decent. You need to be able to keep the ball. Not that I want to read too much into this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it seems like he's got an engine, a competent tackler at the beginning stage, better yet, of his career. It makes sense. Now, again, I'm quite tired of speaking about Mudryk. Some of you are probably tired of speaking about it as well. Apparently, Shakhtar, the next manager, has urged him to reject a January move to Arsenal, people. Specifically, what is he said, people? He said this management will decide what to do when there's an option to sell a football player, the star of the team. As a coach, of course, I'd like such a player to play as long as possible in the team, to build a quality Shakhtar around him so that everybody gains momentum, gains experience, and does what perhaps the team once did in the Champions League. With our efforts, talent, and ambition, I think we could do it together. Eventually, they are young. I say again, young. There are several footballers in Dynamo Zagreb, for example. Gavdal, who's a bit error-prone, but I'll take him at Arsenal, plays for Leipzig and played in the World Cup for Croatia. Spaniard Dani Almo played at Zagreb after leaving Barcelona and is currently at Leipzig and scored the other day. Each of them played at least 100 matches for the club and only then moved from their intermediate club and not immediately to Barcelona and Man City, which is true. And that's where Arsenal, respectfully, the Arsenals, the Nices, the Sevillas, where that intermediate step for the 21-year-old who probably isn't ready in terms of that level of consistency to play week in, week out for Europe's elite. So it makes sense. This is one small example of how to build your career correctly so that you reach the highest level already, ready, powerful to be able to say I'm here. But that's true, and there is logic. But he, you know, if you're learning how to swim, and then obviously you're a little kid about 2 foot, and then you grow to 5 foot, and you're in the paddling pool and you can stand up, you're not going to see how good of a swimmer you are in it. He feels he's outgrown the Ukrainian league and wants to test himself in the top 5 division. That doesn't mean he's going to join the biggest and baddest in Europe. That simply means it's now time to test himself in another domain. I don't think the manager is wrong, but obviously he wants to keep a quality player. However, the coach is always a bit selfish and wants to have quality players in his team as long as possible to give results and excitement to the fans. That's true. Mudryk has 10 goals and 8 assists in 18 appearances so far, people, this season. Again, we've been linked with this lad before, people. Carlos Alcaraz. He can play as a 10, can play as an 8, can play out wide as an inverted playmaker. From what I remember, he's a decent from set pieces. He's a decent passer. He's 19 years of age. There's a lot of development that would need to be improved upon. But if he is an emerging talent, if he further confirms, signing South American exciting talents that can do things for us, why not? The first thing, apparently, Wolves are in talks with him, people. They're in talks to sign him. And allegedly, there's a £13 million fee being muted, people. His reps conducted an interview as well, which I've got up here, people. Both Milan clubs are also interested in him as well, people. According to first and foremost FC Internews, Wolves have already contacted the player's entourage. Interestingly, Alcaraz's camp were in England for talks with as yet unknown clubs a couple of weeks ago. So we'll never know what's going on there. According to Spanish publication Marca, Arsenal and Tottenham are also keen on the individual, people. And apparently they said he has the acceleration of an Olympic hurdler and the balance of a ballerina. I did mention he takes free kicks and can play a variety of midfield roles. He is still obviously probably extremely inexperienced. I'll be shocked if he has close to 100 appearances to his name. So we'll have to see, people. Apparently, since at Racing Club, he's been deemed the most exciting young talent since a certain Lautaro Martinez. Big praise for him, people. Big praise for him, people. So yeah. Carrying on with this, apparently his agent has spoken, people, as well. He's spoken out. His agent has confirmed there is interest from an unnamed English club as well as others from countries. Now, his agent could just be saying that to drive interest, could be trying to hurry negotiations with legitimate interested clubs. It's easy to say these things. Arsenal, Tottenham, Inter, AC Milan, unless pressed for it, they're not going to come out and dispel these rumours. We have an option from England and another from Portugal. That could be Wolves, but neither the directors of Inter nor those of AC Milan have contacted me in these hours. We are waiting. The club, this is his agent. The clubs we have spoken to are very important. Clearly, Inter and AC are very, very important. And obviously, both options are more than welcome. Inter and Milan are 2 top clubs. Perhaps also because of what Diego Milito was and what Lautaro is now, and are particularly interested in Carlos. Nobody then disputes the importance of Milan. He costs around 15 million euros, so that's about 13, 14. Although the figure could be lowered by inserting a clause allowing Racing a percentage of a future resale, which is true. Going back to this article, have we missed anything out? We are waiting. We've been talking to important clubs. No, we've seen that bit, people. So, yeah, the agents basically said, we're trying to move. I'm trying to get my sell-on percentage, people. And that just echoes the same thing as well. Arsenal are reportedly interested in signing Leo striker Jonathan David, who, is he better than Eddie Nketiah at this moment? Probably, but for the fee they want, you're laughing, really. Get out of it. Arsenal are reportedly showing an interest in signing Jonathan David. However, Aston Villa and Newcastle are also monitoring the situation, people. Now, we've been linked with this guy more times than we can count, people. He has made it clear for the last couple of seasons, last 18 months, definitely, that he wants to move on. Form hasn't probably been there, really, if I'm completely honest with you. But he's a decent player. There's a lot to improve upon. He's contracted until 2025, so there's a serious degree of wiggle room. Don't think he did much in Canada's impressive game against Belgium. I think he was probably one of the worst players on the pitch. Don't understand why he didn't take the penalty instead of Alphonso Davies, because he's been quite prolific from the spot. If the manager has told them about who the penalty taker is, then fair enough. But yeah, away from all of that, just this kind of just reiterates again. You go back to May of this year, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Inter all tracking, Carlos Alcaraz, whose fee is dropped by about 10 million. It says 25 million here. it was 15 with what his agent said. The 19-year-old has been doing quite well. Let's skip to the bulk of what's actually been said, people. And again, he's going to struggle with consistency, people, as well. So Carlos gives us hope, but he has to keep learning and building his career, says Gago, who knows about the pressure, of course. As a player, physically, and as a footballer, there's a whole team behind him supporting and helping. Fair enough, people. And, you know, he can hit a free kick. There's a lot to like about him, but he's still raw. Could he reach Lautaro Martinez's level? He's a great player who debuted in the first team at 17. There is a great chance. That aspect always helps when it comes to negotiating. Fair enough. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. But honestly, not a single person knows, people, what's going on. And I think this is the same thing with Mudryk. Yeah, this is the same thing earlier with Mudryk. Once again, Rodrigo Berco now wants Tottenham transfer despite Arsenal interest. I mean, the way Tottenham Hotspur defend and the back free tax is probably because he's going to get more games over there. Udinese allegedly wants 17 million for the 26-year-old. You've got Conte there. It makes sense, in it, really. I've seen a bit of him, but I don't have an informed opinion on this individual. I've more watched the collective of Udinese, just like you watch Italian football. But you know, when you're watching football, people, and it's not that somebody ain't stood out. This guy ain't stood out to me. He might be good. 26 years of age, South American, cut price. Arsenal need a centre-back, and he could be that, but it just seems like paper talk. Once again, Fabrizio Romano actually said Arsenal, Tottenham Hotspur, and Everton, nobody's put a bid down on this individual. Arsenal likely to be interested in Douglas Luiz in January, people. This is what Ben Jacobs has said. I mean, Douglas Luiz signed a new deal, so it's not impossible, but it's probably improbable, people, in that regards. But who knows? Apparently, we're interested in Douglas Luiz again, people. 25 million bid was rejected with him signing a new deal. Unless there's a gentleman's agreement to let him leave either in January or the summer, it doesn't make sense. Emre's just got in the club as well. Would you really want to lose one of your star players? I don't know, but Ben Jacobs has said Arsenal still would like to strengthen in the midfield area for sure. I think that Douglas Luiz will be on their radar once again. We know they tried to get him towards the end of the summer window. Okay. Is that it? I mean, he might be on our radar if other targets are not there, and there's clearly admiration. If we put a bid down, we see how we can tie into our team in the short, medium, and long term. But unless something happens, you know, you can still get him. Just because he signed a new deal doesn't mean much. Maybe there's a gentleman's agreement. Time can change, but there's not really any credibility there. It seems like that boat has firmly gone, if I'm completely honest with you. But you never know in this life, man. This is what I was going to read about Reece Nelson, people. This is more for my personal reading. I won't bore you lot with that. But yeah, man, obviously we've spoken about the latest transfer news and things like that. Check out my YouTube playlist, people, where I've been doing videos for the latest news so you can catch up on other things. Please make sure you're liking, you're commenting, you're subscribing. More importantly than that, you lot stay blessed, stay safe, and I'll buck up with you lot again, man. Make sure you're hitting the like buttons, you're commenting, you're subscribing, you're doing the rest of it, people. Check out my watch-alongs for the World Cup as well.
There's always just that active defending.
I think it's like